Can I have your attention, please? I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome to the January 21st, 2010 Lowell Planning Board hearing. Tonight, we have no public hearing scheduled. We do have a pre-application session and some other old business to address. The first matter on our agenda this evening is the minutes of November 2nd, 2009. Do all board members have a chance to look at the minutes? Have any questions, concerns, or corrections? Here are no corrections. Do we have a motion to approve the November 2nd minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion is made.
Second?
And second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Those minutes have been approved. Also, we have the minutes from November 16th, 2009. Any corrections, amendments to those?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve November 16th minutes.
Motion's made
Second?
and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Those minutes have been approved. Moving along, as indicated, we have no public hearing scheduled this evening, but we do have, on the new business, we have what's known as a pre-application session. The following individuals have requested for the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the addresses listed below. These are not public hearings. Each project will require a public hearing as noted below. The planning board renders no decision nor guarantees any future decision, whether positive or negative, on any project that receives pre-application review. This review process is for information purposes only. The project address is 500 Pawtucket Street. The applicant is Burbank Falls LLC in Riverview LLC. The project is construction of a student dormitory building with 296 beds, an accessory parking garage with a total of 148 parking stalls. The zoning is in the institutional mixed-use zone, and this will require a site plan review hearing open to the public at a future date. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, just before the applicant speaks, I do want to declare that I will be recusing myself from voting on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Okay. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, member of the board. Frank Federa Jr., member of Riverview LLC. Met with Aaron over the last week or so, preparing the preliminary. It's work in progress right now, but I think it's pretty somewhat finalized with respect to the location of the building, location of the parking. If you look at Exhibit C1, which is the existing site plan, the location is in the corner of Walker Street and Pawtucket Street. There's an existing single-story ice cream business, and it's a fairly level lot with asphalt that pretty much covers the entire lot. If you look at Exhibit C2, we have the building that is the proposed building footprint, which is basically on the Pawtucket Street side with the parking in the rear. We also have open space in the rear and on the right side as well, and the entrance for the parking facility will be on Walker Street. There's two main entrances to the building itself. If you look in towards the Merrimack Valley or the river, on the right-hand side, there's the main entrance, and also on the corner of Walker Street, there's another entrance as well. If you look at exhibits SKA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, basically illustrates the parking layout and the floor plans as well. And we also have a preliminary rendering. I think it illustrates the architectural style of the building and the different materials that will be used for the construction of the building. Again, this is gives you a good illustration of what we're trying to do. I wouldn't say that it's a final rendering, but gives you a good idea. It's a postmodern building with brick, ephes, meets today's energy code and standards, and we're also gonna try to get this LEED certified as well. So I'm open to any questions if you guys just wanna have an open dialogue, and hopefully I could try to answer everything I have.
Anything else you'd like to add this time? No? Did you say there's an entrance on Walker Street, right?
Correct. For the parking facility, yes.
Okay. Is there, I'm sorry, an entrance on Pawtucket Street as well?
Well, for the occupants of the building, there's an entrance on Pawtucket Street, and there's also an
Now,
entrance.
could you just show me where that is and which plan would be easier for you to address? I can see where,
Yep.
I'm looking at SKA 2, maybe?
Yeah, if you look at SK
I
2,
see where you have Walker Street, and it has, to the left, I can see where, that's where the traffic flow is gonna come in?
yeah, exactly. If the question is the entrance of the traffic or the entrance of the occupants?
Why don't you give me both if you could?
Yeah,
Because one question's gonna meet the next. I
Sure,
can see where
sure.
the traffic was, but I wasn't sure if there was another one in the front. so.
Sure.
All right, thank you, sir.
With respect to the parking, the entrance is on Walker Street. If you look at SK 2, you have an entrance and an exiting for the parking facility. If you continue on the upper left-hand corner, you see the lobby entrance that's illustrated. That's a occupant entrance as well. And then if you look in the upper right-hand corner, there's a community room and there's a courtyard, so there's two entrances.
Okay, so you get the one by the lobby and then by community room?
Correct. Yeah, if you see the courtyard on the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner,
Yes.
so that's I would say that this will be probably the main entrance, because you have the courtyard and the community room, and then we also have a second entrance in the lobby on the left-hand side.
Oh, I see, okay, okay. So that would both be all foot patrol then?
I'm sorry?
That'd be by foot, right? There wouldn't be any vehicles coming in that way?
Correct.
Okay. All right, all right. So all your vehicles would come in by Walker Street?
Correct.
Okay. And I think, how many stories total? I see you have one below ground, or,
The below-ground is a basement. It would be the laundry facilities and utility room and storage. The
so is
above,
that actually below the,
below grade,
okay, below grade?
Yeah.
So that won't be seen
Correct.
from the street? Okay.
correct,
So then you have one below grade, then you have the first through sixth, if I read the plan correct?
correct.
Okay. So you have 7 levels, 6 above ground, okay. I'm sure you're aware that, since we're aware that this is new in our zoning. So this is a
Very-
working process for us as well.
Yeah,
This just got adopted, and we just made sure we had a new update on that, just got passed by the council in November. And one of the things on the ordinance that came before us for recommendation a few times is, would you be having transportation to the university from here?
well, I think the ordinance talks about that. I think there's something about
200 linear feet?
providing transportation for anything over 2,000 linear feet, I believe it is. If you look at section,
Yeah, it's, right, on the condition to be 3D, where buildings are located such that the students must walk further than 200 linear feet from the nearest campus academic building. Would that,
I'm looking at conditions in,
right,
it's, yeah, 2,000 linear feet, correct?
right.
Well, the actual proposed building is approximately 1,000 linear feet, so you're pretty much within, so I think, to answer your question, there's no need for any public
So
transportation.
you fall
'cause
within that?
you're within 600 to 700 linear feet from the south campus.
The south. What about, oh, yeah, that's right.
If you look at the last page of the package,
Yeah.
I have a map, an aerial map, and it shows it gives you a good idea of the proximity of the south campus.
Now, on one, the last picture prior to the one we just, where the map was, you show a picture of the possible renderings? The last two pictures? You show what it might look like?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know what the outside of that facade is? Is that what it's gonna be, or that's something that you're working with?
Well,
Or
we're-
that's an example maybe, or?
Yeah, we're looking at a postmodern design. We want to incorporate some of the architectural features on the outside. If you look at it, we want to use some modern materials, but we also want to use brick and ephes as well. So, I mean, it's a work in process. We still have to finalize the different materials, but this gives you a good idea of what we want to use: brick, ephes, metal, architectural elements as well.
And would your parking garage look similar to the one in this picture here, or?
Somewhat. I mean, they're elevated precast type of a parking facility. It would be either stone or ephes, even brick. We're not really sure yet, but this is somewhat consistent with what we're probably going to end up proposing.
So the parking facility will be attached to but not enclosed in the building, is that correct?
Correct. It'll be adjacent to the building.
Okay. I know when we had the first set of plans that we got sent to us, we didn't have these back too, so I wasn't sure how the layout was. Okay? All right. And then through there, you'd come in and you'd have a walking facility to come over to use the elevators and everything else to get into the dormitory use?
Correct.
Sure.
Just a question relative to that. It seems like a pretty unique design that you have here. How do you access the parking garage into the dormitory rooms area? It's not clear to me in this.
Yeah, if you,
Now, what's the pedestrian traffic within the facilities that I'm getting?
sure, if you look at SKA 2, you have,
A2,
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
if you look at the parking facility, it's basically going to be an open concept with a courtyard. So if you look at those tiles, they're basically, it basically illustrates an open courtyard. And we have a door entering the corridor where it says walkway. And also, we have a bike rack facility and a door going into the hallway as well. So anyone who is in the garage could access the hallways through that courtyard.
oh, here. But-
If you look at SK 3,
Yeah, it's clear now. I can see. Yeah, okay. The other concern I have is, Chairman Linehan referred to relative to the materials that you're gonna use here on the facade and this area, you know, in my estimation, you got a beautiful little walkway going along the canal on the left as you look straight into it. And there are some residential houses right behind it and in that neighborhood. And I'm gonna suggest that you might wanna touch base with the chairman of the historic board, Steve Stoll, to just talk about materials. So a resource that, very, very knowledgeable about that type of thing. Something that would really soften the impact of the size of the building. I think it's appropriate to address. I mean, even the bridge, I sit on the historic board, and the little bridge there on Pawtucket Street that's right adjacent to that, we heard that a couple of months ago. That's all gonna be redone and restored in that mode. Just the impact of the building on the neighborhood would be of great concern. I think materials would help. That's all.
Joe, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few going through the plans and in no particular order. But as I looked at sheet C2, which is the full site plan, as I look at the plan in the proposed parking garage, it appears like there's an overhang from the building along Pawtucket Street. Is that over the parking garage?
the overhang on Pawtucket Street on the right-hand corner,
Well, the building, the dorm building proposed along Pawtucket Street, it looks like there's a portion of that that overhangs the parking garage. You know, am I reading that correctly?
I think what that's illustrating is, if you look at the SK1, I think what that's illustrating is the basement or the lower level.
I was looking at C2.
Yeah, you're referring to the dotted line that is overhanging on the parking lot?
Right.
As illustrated in C2? Yeah, if you look at SK1, it's part of the basement or lower level footprint. So that dotted line is illustrating the elevated level of the parking facility.
And the dorm building itself is anticipated being how many stories?
6 stories.
And the garage?
The garage is 1 below, and I believe 2 above.
And again, looking at C2, on the right side, there's shown some trees along the edge of the property. And could you describe what's going in over there? That's where the canal is, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, that's, the canal is approximately 120 or 150 feet from the property
From the
line.
property
What-
line.
What this is showing is the actual park itself.
Okay.
If-
That area that looks like a dotted lines along the property line where the trees are, what does that depict?
That depicted a preliminary infiltration design. We were gonna do, we were gonna actually propose to do a rain garden in that corner, but we talked to Lisa and talked about having no combined sewer going into the city. We were actually, in the beginning, in the early stages, we were gonna discharge some back into the city. So this was a preliminary design. We were gonna mitigate some of the stormwater and pump it into the rain garden. This is actually changed. We're going to do on-site mitigation, so we're not going to discharge anything into the combined sewer. So this is now going to be revised. We're not going to have a rain garden. It's not going to show a swale-like feature. It's actually going to be flat with infiltration, subsurface infiltration systems.
Okay.
And then the landscaping will be obviously on top of that, and that hasn't been defined yet.
Is that within the parking area, the asphalt area that exists now?
Correct.
So the walkway along the canal is to the right, further to the right as we look at this print. Just trying to locate where the walkway is that runs along the canal.
That will be to the right of this, yes.
Right of it,
Yeah,
okay.
this reflects the property line, and then the walkway and the green space is to the right of the property line.
'Cause that's actually a state park, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
In terms of the total numbers, how many units will be in the entire complex?
We're proposing, I believe it is 292 rooms
296 here.
and approximately 67 units.
So the units, some of them are 3-bedroom, some of them are 2-bedroom. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
All right. And I see from the layout, the 3 bedrooms typically have a living area, kitchen area, 2 bathrooms for the 3-bedroom units. The 2-bedroom, a living area, kitchen, and 1 bathroom. So the 292 rooms, would those be for 2 students each?
The 292 rooms
got 67 units.
actually reflect beds.
Okay, so 67 units, 292 beds, because it looks like there's 2 beds in each bedroom. That's
Correct.
depicted on here, so
Correct.
292 beds in total. And the number of parking spaces?
We're proposing 148 parking spaces. Comes out to be a ratio of 0.5 per bed, approximately.
And have you done the analysis to see if all this complies with zoning?
Yes, we have.
I didn't, was there a chart with this, a zoning chart? I didn't pick it up if there was.
We did a preliminary, if you look at the cover sheet, there is no zoning chart. We're going to incorporate that in the site plan application.
The renderings that are in the back of the plans we got tonight, these are computer renderings, I presume? Those depict the approximate, well, the exact number of stories, the approximate height, and also the garage behind. Is that
Correct.
So it looks like that. The lower level, is that ground level, or would it be going down a level?
That would be down a level.
Okay, so it'd be down a level.
Well, the first level is approximately 20 feet above grade, so you would be going down, but it won't be, you won't be going down 8 or 9 feet. So if you could just picture the first level elevated approximately 20 inches.
Okay, so you'll be going down to this first level, then there'll be 2 levels above
Correct.
that. Okay. I think that's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I have one additional.
Sure, go ahead, Rich.
Relative to landscaping, you show on your plot plan here, quite a bit of open space. Do you have any preliminary ideas as to how you're gonna landscape this? Again, it could soften the impact on the.
Yeah,
community.
we have every intention to use larger trees. We don't like to use any trees that are less than 2.5 caliper in diameter. We like to use flower and pear trees, things that kind of mature up and peak up to try to soften and give that buffer. We haven't gone to the extent of providing the board tonight a landscape plan with species and
No, that's
locations
not
and stuff like that.
necessary.
But I guess the answer to the question is that The intent is to consult with the city. I'm not sure if you do have an arborist on staff with the city.
There are staff people that
I know Aaron touched on that, and my landscape architect as well, to try to make that buffer,
Yeah.
as much as possible.
fine, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
On one of the pictures on the back, I see where one part of the building's a little taller than the other parts. I think on the second to last page, you see a corner lot there, it comes and then one sticks up and has like a oval shape. It looks a little tall, and then on the back it seems to exceed down, or is that just the way it looks from the picture?
I'm sorry, is that the night?
Yeah. this
That's the
one-
night?
Yeah, it looks like it might be a little
Yeah,
higher
those
up in
are,
spot, and then maybe goes down a little bit in the back, or?
those are just architectural features.
Okay.
The height restriction's, I believe, 100 feet.
Yes. Yep.
So they're just an architectural element.
Okay. But I think some of the concern will be, what type of facade you use in that neighborhood, because it, obviously, compared to what's existing there now, it's gonna be a lot bigger. So between the facade, the landscaping, how you propose it, how it helps blend in with the neighborhood, which be, consideration factors, obviously,
As well as lighting, you'd have, it's something that you should try to tone down, but
I think we have a good opportunity in the rear, especially in the rear, where we abut the residential properties. We have a nice area that we could try to use some mature trees and try to get that buffer that we're looking for. Also, the parking garage, unlike the building being in the rear of the property, going straight up, we kind of have a building leveling, where you have the ground landscaping, then you have the two-story garage, and then you have the building itself. So I think if we could use some downlighting, incorporate some mature trees, I think we're going to try to achieve that.
So by coming down Walker Street, you can, try to adjust it a little bit from the neighborhood.
Correct.
That
Correct.
way, where you have landscaping, the garage, and then the building, so you can soften
That's correct.
as it exceeds to the maximum height facing Pawtucket Street.
That's correct.
Because it appears that you do have plenty of landscaping in the back here. By this plan on SK2, we have quite a bit of trees and whatever you decide to landscape.
And I think, I think we are going to incorporate some pots, planting pots on the upper deck of the garage as well, to try to soften that and try to keep that landscape and tier going up as well. I think if you look at actually all the parking levels, we do incorporate some landscaping pots.
Yeah, like on SK8, we show some landscaping on some of the trees, I think.
Correct. That's a good illustration of, on that upper level of the parking deck, if we could put some trees with some pots there as well. And again, you could achieve, you could put a 2-inch caliper tree in a decent-sized pot and get the same effect.
And you know what trees will last, which ones will stay long, not to go into the roots as deep as well. Any further questions, any board members?
No, I don't know if you had an opportunity to meet with your abutters yet. If you haven't, I'd certainly encourage that, especially the ones to the rear that look like they'd be most closely impacted. It appears that the one on the left, the existing house might be right close to your property line, which only gives you your, maybe 20-foot buffer before your garage. The one behind might be 30 feet approximately, but I'd certainly encourage you to meet with them and share your plans with them and maybe get their thoughts
Absolutely.
as to what they might be interested in too.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any further questions for us, or anything else you'd like to state? No? Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Good luck, thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Moving along on the agenda, we have, under old business, we have nothing scheduled for this evening. The only thing, we do have the notices in the budding towns. We have received a copy of those in the packet. Anybody have any questions on the notices in the budding towns?
Make a motion to place those on file.
Second?
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We do have some correspondences from the zoning board of appeal notices. These matters will be before the zoning board of appeals. A public hearing on January 25th, 2010 at 6:30 PM in the city council chambers. The matter is for a variance, and the application is Highland Place Condo Association. The property location at 62 Highland Street, and this is a traditional multifamily zone. This is to maintain existing 5-unit building with decreased lot area per dwelling unit and without the required parking as a result of proposed lot line relocations pursuant to sections 4.5, which is non-conforming uses and structures, and 6.1.1 off-street parking in the zoning ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I looked this plan over and trying to make heads or tails as to what they're actually doing here. Because we don't have all of the information in front of us. We have the bare application. It looks like at some point, when they filed their application, they did file some sort of a narrative setting forth their request for a hardship, but that didn't make it into our package. So I don't know if Aaron, you had any additional information on this Board of Appeals matter.
I'm just looking through it right now to see if there's any narrative as well.
It almost, like reading some of the application, it's almost like if, they re-changing the lot lines for some reason.
Yeah,
That's
my
not
best,
reflected on the plan at
It
all.
doesn't say, and then,
It does, it says that, that's what
Right.
confused me.
It would
There's nothing here.
it would appear that both structures are on one lot, and they're trying to move I'm not quite sure. Or if they-
I think from what it looked like from the assessor's map, that the 62 Highland Street had some additional space behind it where there might be some parking, and the 214 Thorndike Street looks like it fills up the entire lot without parking. So it appears that and it is two separate lots, at least at this point. It looks like they're attempting to move the lot line so that it's very close to the building at 62, so that they can utilize the parking area to do some work to rebuild 214 Thorndike Street. But it's strictly a guess. I haven't seen their narrative, so I don't know exactly
Yeah,
what they're doing. But I do know, according to the dimensional summary, if they're successful moving the lot line, the land area per dwelling area, which is required at 4,000 square feet, will drop down on Lot 1 to 1,162 square feet, and on Lot 2 to 1,425 square feet. So that's very, very tight.
yeah. I don't know by reading it, if they're saying there was a hardship for some reason, if, when they change the lot lines, of course, they give you the chapter, the site plan review section, it also talks about if something was burned down, but I don't know if that's the case. The other thing to consider, on Lot 1, when he gives us the dimensional summary of the zoning chart, he tells us what the side yard and front yard is, but this is a corner lot. So therefore, he has to meet the side yard and front yard is both.
Right,
He doesn't depict that on his zoning. For example, like, what was it? If you look at Lot 1 for side yard, what do we have here? He has 14 and 704. And so then, where is it? 14.9, and then where was the 704? Oh, the 704 is in the back somewhere. That's on number 1. It is 14, and where's his 704? I think he has it, Right where it says, lot number 1, he points out to where the parking area is.
Oh, it's right here, so.
Yeah, and so that's,
704,
that comes in tight, and then he has, it looks like 2 parking spaces there as well. So I think on the application, he's losing the parking spaces.
And that property at 62 Highland Street is apparently 5 condominiums. So that's, I don't know where they're putting all the parking.
Yeah, and I think, and
Yeah, it
that's
doesn't
definitely
show
the
any
the request for the parking, so I think when his dimensional requirements, he's off quite a bit. I mean, the only thing he really sticks out on is lot 2, he has the 7,000 square feet. But then, how many parking spaces are on lot 2? Do you have the 8 and then the 411?
We shouldn't have to be guessing, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just think it's another one of those cases without the narrative and without the petitioner kind of explaining what they're trying to accomplish.
In an inadequate plan.
Yeah, it's kind of
If you look
difficult.
at
You
lot-
can't make a good judgment.
I actually can't even find the plan in my packet, but this is, one of the buildings that's involved in this has been burned.
Yes, I think
It's a
the
bad
corner
fire.
behind there has been
Last
burned,
year.
and
Yeah.
it looks like they're trying to move the lot line closer to the 5 condominiums so that they can have sufficient parking to rebuild the building behind them.
Okay, see, originally when I heard
it's
that
a little
they were gonna go back to the zoning board, I thought they were just gonna try to reestablish an existing non-conforming, because,
Must have been a parking issue.
correct, yeah, and I think there was the fire, and it's been over at least a year, and that's the time they have to rebuild.
Right.
I didn't realize they were gonna move lot lines, so I'm not sure.
But by doing that, they'll take away the parking from the front building.
I mean, and if you look at lot 2, I mean, for the side yard, you get 5.56 and, what's the other one, 1.2 or 4.7?
1.2,
Right, you know, so,
side yard, yeah.
and,
Well, no, that would be backyard, but
yeah, I mean, so, that's,
4.17 on the other side.
right. And so, and then on, let me tell you, when you see Highland Street in Thorndike, I mean, since it's a corner lot, he has to satisfy the frontage and the side yard on both.
And then they have a proposed parking easement, so I'm not quite sure how,
With those gonna pick up, right?
yeah, that'll be,
They might be trying to share that lot
share that between the two
buildings.
buildings, yeah.
That's what it is,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
I remember across the street from this lot, one on Highland Street, they had a building that came before us, and it looked pretty tight, and actually, they had that little vacant space where neighbors were parking there, and it was somebody else's, and this person put that house in, and it actually came out pretty nice, and they restricted their own parking, and it did a good job on that lot, even though it was tight, but they took their own parking where the neighbors were using it for their own parking, but due to the fact here, we has the land area dwelling area, I mean, for 4,000 square feet, he only has 11 and 14 on one. He's missing the parking, he's missing the side yard, he's missing the, I'd have concerns about allowing the request.
Yeah, me too.
My only comment, Mr. Chairman, is that I think that was a tough, the lots in their current state was tight to begin with, and without a narrative and proper testimony, you know, I don't know what the intent is, what they're trying to achieve. I guess my recommendation is that we would give no finding based on the information that we have in front of us, but that's just my thought on that, only because it's, I think that they have a challenge as they currently exist, and does this make it better, or does this make it worse? I just don't know.
I would agree with that. I don't think there's sufficient information. You know, we're guessing at what we're trying to do.
You want to put that in the form of a motion, or?
I'll put that in the motion
Okay.
to deny based on inadequate information and plans.
All those in favor?
I don't know if we want to necessarily
I-
deny or take no action.
Right, no action
Take
is
no
what.
action, yeah.
Take no action based upon the lack
That's
of
fine, yeah,
information.
take no action.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. Okay. Any general correspondences, Aaron, from the plan department to the board?
I received a couple of the online ethics trainings, so thank you. That, I just wanted to clarify that the deadline for that is April 1st, so there's some time. I'll try to
So that's for
do up a reminder when that.
So we gave you the form for the ethics thing when most of us last meeting.
Yeah.
So it's just that online
Training. Mhm.
training that we have to go through, and then we certify and give that piece of paper to you once we sign off on that? Okay,
April 10th.
okay.
Took that little exam today, there was
I
about
started-
25 questions you gotta answer
I
online.
started it, it took about 5, and then I had something.
Mr. Chairman, I handed in my certificate already.
You
I
did?
started doing mine, and my computer booted me off and told me to start over again. So,
Wow.
anything else?
The only other thing is just as way of giving you a heads up, we met with, a number of departments met with Duville to kind of work out some of the elements of their proposed addition. They're looking to submit for March 1st timeframe, so that should be coming in soon. But that's, oh, and then there's one other submission for February 18th on Smith Street, so we should be getting information on that soon as well.
Which one is that?
Smith Street, 6163, it's a neighborhood character special permit.
6163 Smith, okay.
Smith Street.
What they want to put in there?
They're taking down a two-family and putting up 2 single families.
A two-family come down and 2 single families go up?
Yep.
We don't see that too often, do we? Usually you get the single families that want to make them the two families. Well, okay.
That's about it.
Any board members have any?
I would have just a couple of comments maybe I could bring up to the board now. Thinking back to the vote that we took last week concerning the conditional abandonment of Edward Street, we did recommend that be approved 3-2 so that it could get to the council and get the process going that eventually will lead us to get the site plan review for the proposed Walgreens pharmacy. Having watched the last couple of council meetings, that was that project and the abandonment of the street was pretty hotly debated. There was some public testimony, obviously. The traffic is going to be a major issue that we're going to have to be concerned about when that project comes up before the board. And in thinking, it hasn't come up to us yet. We have not yet seen the traffic study or traffic report. I understand that there is one that's been prepared by the developer, and I believe it's been reviewed by the traffic engineer for the city, and he's issued some sort of an opinion on that. But again, thinking forward, I don't know if it's premature, but I think given the fact that this project is really going to be concerned quite a bit on the traffic issue and the difficulty of that intersection, if we might want to reach out to the developer prior to even coming in for the public hearing to request an independent study of the traffic report that they had done, and that we hire our own independent traffic engineer to do that, at the cost of the developer. I think it'd be an important information to have so that we can get our own independent study of that, perhaps get some recommendations as to how they feel about the traffic study, number one, and whether the independent traffic engineer can have any further recommendations. So I think that that's going to be a major issue, and we haven't done that since I've been here on the board. But this is a very difficult intersection, as has been stated. It's one of the worst in the state. We need to make sure that if we're going to move forward, that the intersection would be improved or not made worse by whatever is going to be built there. So I would throw it out for your thoughts as to whether we could reach out to the developer and say, we'd like to have this independent study even before you come in on the public hearing, because if it comes in for the public hearing, I'm going to ask for that, and I think that would just delay it further. If they had the ability to do that now, I think it'd be something worth looking into.
I think Jerry can speak to this, but that the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments has already done a study, whether it's current or not, I don't know, but even getting them involved, possibly.
If I could speak to that,
Yeah,
we
speak to
actually had
that.
a NEMCOG meeting last night, and I did ask, because there was federal funding And I believe then Representative Meehan, I think it was one of his last acts, was able to procure some funds for a Wood Street corridor study. But unfortunately, it appears to still be in the process of procuring the funds through the federal system to allocate for NEMCOG to be able to use. So unfortunately, there really hasn't been very much progress on that Wood Street corridor review. I would agree with my colleague, Mr. Claremont, that and this is done in many communities, and I believe it's referred to as a peer review, and having a independent traffic study done, I think it would be helpful to have at the public hearing. I would agree. I think regardless of what is presented at the public hearing, without without even a project in front of us, we know there are some issues there. So I think it would behoove us to request that ahead of the public hearing, because anything that's going to go in there with any major magnitude, I think we're going to need to look at something like that. So I would agree. I think that's an excellent suggestion.
One other point relative to that, I think, I think about the Lowe's development up off of Stevens Street and Chelmsford Street there, and how that intersection was improved. It's got wider turns, and it's really nice. I think the development over there is fine, whether it's a Walgreens or something else, but I think that the intersection itself really needs to be upgraded to the point where it can handle more traffic. We have that one corner across the street from this potential development that we've approved. There's a little shopping strip going in there, and you get a busy shopping area across the street from that. The intersection itself has got to be upgraded to support good development there. So your point is well taken, Joe.
Yeah, I think
We
maybe.
need that information to make a
Yeah,
proper
maybe we could
decision.
reach out to the developer now and say, when this matter comes forward, we would like peer review of their traffic study, and get their feelings on that, to be willing to, engage somebody that we choose to do that study, and then maybe speak to the traffic engineer or whomever to determine who would be the best firm to hire to do that.
That sounds good. I can say that I don't know when and what the time frame is, but they had planned on doing a pre-application session, at least, but I can certainly reach out.
Yeah, it'd be good information to have right off the bat when we start the public hearing on this matter, because other than that, it'll just get delayed, because these things take time to get done.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, because a couple of questions, when you talk about the site plan, I mean, all the concern now is the traffic, and everybody knows we're the last ones to see it when it comes before us in the site plan. I know they said they're working, as Mr. Flood said at the public hearing, when I was watching on TV the other night, that they've been working with the city traffic engineer, and they have different proposals to help change all that. So we have no benefit of seeing what those proposals are, how they're gonna mitigate traffic, how they're gonna help traffic. And the question is, if we had an independent evaluation done, that person could comment on how those proposals would address the traffic concern. I know down the street, when we had Bradford Industries, when that was gonna come forward, they gave us a traffic plan, and they indicated they were gonna work with the city for changing the lights and changing all the whole neighborhood, and they were gonna work with the city and have it done regardless of whether we voted for the project or not. I know I was against that project and went to court on that, and the city solicitor told us we were gonna lose and asked us to withdraw and mitigate the circumstances, so we did. Did that traffic survey come forward, and did those change the lights and all that stuff? No. Bradford says, we'll still work with you for a year later regardless whether we get approved or not. They haven't gone in there. They want to come back to us again, which we heard last time, to change something up there. We haven't seen that. Been well over a year. That development isn't going anywhere. So that was a concern we had back then on that project, and that was all concerned about the traffic. And at that time, their traffic engineer said it would be okay if you change X, Y, and Z, and the city would work with them. Those haven't been implemented, so what Mr. Claremont's getting to is if we see something comes in and says, if these are implemented, it'll help the situation out up there, then obviously that's for the best of everybody. I know, but off the top, the concern is you have a soccer field there. If anything can help the traffic for the people who are going there for the soccer fields, that would be an improvement one way or another. So even if, regardless of what happens to Walgreens, if we do get input from an independent traffic engineer, it would help the city in deciding what has to be done, what doesn't have to be done to mitigate the traffic problem up there anyways, with or without a Walgreens or any other further development in that neighborhood. And I think it would help us as a city to do it as a guide. I know under the law, we have the right to ask the applicant to do so. The applicant doesn't have to do that. If they want to do it, we'll consider what they have to say. If they come in, we're going to ask them. If they tell us no, then we'll go through in the public hearing with or without that guide, which would be very, very helpful. And we'll have to make our decision with or without that guide. So I think if they're dealing with the Division of Planning and Development coming in, and it's been noted, as mentioned here this evening, that we'd be willing to look for something like that, it's kind of letting them know before they come in here that we're going to be asking for that one way or another, and that's something they might want to consider. Because I know they also have to come in for two matters before us. And one would be the site plan, and one is the subdivision. And even when they're done with this planning board, no matter how we vote, they still have to go to the zoning board of appeals for two matters. So basically, this project first needed okay by the city council twice, which they've received, has to come before us for subdivision for the road, which we have to approve if it gets approved. And then if you approve that, it has to get approval for the site plan if it gets approved. And then if it passes those two with us, with any conditions that we may pose on the site plan, then it has to go before the zoning board of appeals for a special permit for the drive-through. And if that gets approved, then that has to be with conditions and all the conditions that we approved under the site plan. And then, as Mr. Claremont mentioned last time with the criteria, it also has to include any variances that they're requesting. So if they ask for any variances, and those get allowed, then they need two matters before the zoning board of appeals for the site plan as well as the variances. Then, when that's all said and done, under that conditional approval, they still have to have the bonding in place and still has to be signed off by the city manager. So basically, this is a long process down the road with a lot of board approvals and as well as the council approval that has been approved already. So I think a lot of the questions as generated through the council meetings has been the traffic, and I think by asking for an independent recommendation on that and any of these ideas that they have to mitigate the traffic, would be nice to have an independent person answer some of those questions for us. I think a lot of people, and I know no matter how we feel personal about traffic, when it comes to going to court, it doesn't matter what we feel. We've been told that several times from the city solicitor's office. Your opinion on traffic doesn't count. It's what the traffic engineer says and what their engineer says. And those are the only two grounds that it had up when it goes to court, and not what our personal feelings are, not whether we're sitting in traffic and counting cars, does not matter. So we have to be able to, and under our site plan approval, it says it has to meet the criteria, and if that criteria comes down by their expert and the city's expert, then there's nothing much that this board could do about it if traffic was the only major concern. So I think with the independent consultant, it would definitely shed light on what would be the best to make that project and that intersection safer, and I think that's our main goal, is to make sure that anything comes in front of us is to make sure that it's safe for the well-being of the neighbors. So I definitely support that, and if you could pass that along, and if you have any questions in-house on that, I know it can be done, and if you have any questions with that, just give us some feedback, and we'll try to steer it in the right direction.
Yeah, sounds good. We can definitely work that out. I think when the vote to discontinue or recommend discontinue, there was a plan that I sent out that showed an early version. It's certainly an early version. If you want, I can resend that out or see if there's an updated version of that, because
Sure.
there's definitely been a couple of iterations. One of the things, one of the mitigation strategies is to widen Middlesex, the intersection, as you're taking a right onto the Rourke Bridge, so that you could have, basically a turn lane. That's one of the elements, and then we've also talked about circulation onto and off the site to keep left turn lanes, eliminate left turn movements out of the site near the Rourke Bridge, so you don't have this kind of conflict where you have cars stacked up waiting for a red light, and then you got cars trying to pull out of Walgreens taking a left against that. So it would just be right turns. And then there's been some more general discussion about ways that you can do traffic calming on the side streets. Because I know there's been a lot of concern about cut-through traffic. But yeah, I can get you the most recent plan actually, the most recent one I have is the one I sent out, but I can see if there's another one. The one that was given to you showed a street light at the corner at Cornell, or the intersection of Cornell, which was something that we recommended heavily against because that would actually encourage cut-through traffic. So, didn't want that. That's on the plan, but that's out. So, I'll see if I can find something new, and I can definitely, I don't personally know what the process is to get it peer reviewed, but I know it's available, so we'll start working on that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments from any board members? Or anything else?
I don't have anything else.
That concludes our meeting this evening, and entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Good night, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.